In the year 2245, Earth experienced a moment that would forever change the course of its history. For the first time, humanity received a signal from deep space, a message from an alien species, the Vrakath. At first, the scientists and governments of Earth were overwhelmed with excitement. This was a dream come true, contact with an intelligent extraterrestrial civilization. The possibilities seemed endless. Diplomacy, trade, shared knowledge. Humanity was about to take its first step into the vast galaxy beyond. People around? The world watched in awe as Earth's leaders prepared for what they hoped would be a peaceful, mutually beneficial exchange. They believed the aliens would offer wisdom, advanced technologies, and perhaps even the key to solving Earth's greatest problems. But as the Vrakath finally made their intentions clear, the excitement quickly turned to unease. The Vrakath were not here to share their knowledge out of goodwill. They had been watching Earth for centuries, quietly observing from the shadows of the galaxy. The true nature of the message was far from the welcoming tone humanity had hoped for. The Vrakath saw Earth as a primitive backwater, a planet of little importance in the grand scheme of the galaxy. Their message was cold, calculated, and full of hidden implications. The Vrakath extended an offer, but it was far from the friendly gesture Earth's people had envisioned. They didn't want to uplift humanity. They wanted to guide Earth, in their own way, on their own terms. This guidance came with a stark warning. Humanity had no place in the galaxy unless it was on the Vrakath's conditions. The offer was clear: submit or face consequences. Humanity, shocked and confused, was left with little choice. They were given an ultimatum, an opportunity to join the Vrakath in their vision of galactic order, but at the cost of their sovereignty. The Vrakath wanted Earth's resources, its people, and its loyalty to be part of a broader empire they were slowly building. They didn't care about the unique potential of humanity or its future in space. The Vrakath saw Earth as just another pawn in their expanding empire. To them, humans were nothing more than a tool to be used. This reality hit Earth like a cold slap in the face. The dream of intergalactic cooperation began to shatter, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The leaders of Earth met in secrecy, deliberating over their next move. On one hand, rejecting the Vrakath offer would mean facing their wrath, and alien species with technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. On the other hand, submission would mean losing the very essence of what it meant to be human. Earth had spent centuries fighting for independence, for freedom, and now they were being asked to give it all up for the sake of survival. The pressure was immense. As word spread about the Vrakath's true intentions, fear began to spread across Earth. People who had once dreamed of intergalactic diplomacy now found themselves asking one unsettling question. Was humanity ready for the reality of a galaxy full of beings far more powerful, far more ancient, and far less forgiving than they had ever imagined? Tensions reached a boiling point as Earth's leaders debated. Some wanted to negotiate, seeking to find a way to coexist with the Vrakath without losing their independence. Others argued that Earth had no choice but to fight back, to resist the Vrakath's condescension and domination. The sense of powerlessness was overwhelming, but within that fear, a flicker of defiance began to spark. Humanity had always been resilient. They had survived wars, pandemics, and disasters that could have wiped them out. Could they rise to the challenge now? Could they face an alien species far superior in strength, but not in spirit? The answers were unclear, but one thing was certain. Earth would not go down without a fight. The stakes were high, and humanity was on the verge of realizing that their true test was just beginning. The galaxy, they now understood, was not a friendly place, and Earth would either adapt or be erased from the stars. As the Vrakath's demands loomed over them, Earth's leaders made a decision that would set the stage for an intergalactic struggle, like no other. They refused to submit. The spark of rebellion had been lit. Humanity would stand its ground, no matter the cost. And thus, Earth's awakening into the galactic arena began. Not with an alliance, but with the chilling realization that the fight for survival had only just begun. In 2246, just a year after humanity rejected the Vrakath's offer, Earth found itself caught in a deadly struggle for survival. The Vrakath, furious at Earth's defiance, wasted no time in launching their retaliatory strike. Their advanced ships descended on Earth's colonies with terrifying speed, laying waste to anything in their path. The Earth that once had dreamed of peace with the stars was now under attack. But the Vrakath were not alone. A coalition of alien races, the Sirith, the Vaxilians, and the Hamal, had allied themselves with the Vrakath, each seeing an opportunity to crush humanity while they were still vulnerable, still a fledgling power in the galactic scene. The galaxy, once a place of wonder, had become an arena of war, and Earth was the prey. At first, humanity was unprepared. The Vrakath's technological superiority was overwhelming. Their weapons tore through Earth's defenses with ease, and the smaller colonies scattered across the stars were swiftly reduced to smoldering ruins. Earth's military was outmatched, outgunned, and divided. The various nations of Earth, while united in their rejection of the Vrakath's terms, had never expected to face a galactic war, and their forces were not organized to fight a foe this powerful. But humanity, as always, was resourceful. Faced with annihilation, the people of Earth began to fight back with the only weapons they had: ingenuity, determination, and the harsh lessons of their own history. The early victories were small, but they became the seeds of a much larger resistance. Groups of soldiers, scientists, and engineers banded together to strike back. They ambushed Vrakath supply convoys, sabotaged trade routes, and launched guerrilla attacks on the alien invaders using their knowledge of Earth's terrain and its unpredictable environments. Humanity's ability to adapt and improvise began to show its worth. Stolen alien technology, often patched together with human-made components, became the foundation of Earth's first weapons capable of taking down Vrakath warships, even if only temporarily. These small victories brought hope to a battered people, and the idea of resistance spread like wildfire across Earth's colonies. But the true turning point came when Earth's militaries, once fractured and disjointed, realized they could no longer afford to be divided. The threat was too great, the stakes too high. In a historic moment, Earth's military forces united under a single banner. A new leadership emerged, drawing soldiers and commanders from all walks of life, blending the best of Earth's various cultures and strategies. The resistance began to take on a more organized form, with coordinated strikes and tactics that rivaled those of the Vrakath. As Earth's forces began to grow stronger, the alien invaders began to see that humanity, though small and outmatched, was not an easy target. The Vrakath, used to having everything in their control, underestimated humanity's ability to adapt. For the first time, they faced an enemy that refused to surrender, a species that refused to break under pressure. As Earth's military strengthened, so did its resolve. Every new victory, no matter how small, became a rallying cry. The people of Earth, once divided by their petty differences, began to see themselves as one united force. The Federation of Earth was born, a symbol of resistance against the galactic powers that sought to destroy them. But the cost of war was steep. Earth's colonies were torn apart, and the casualties mounted as the fight continued. Despite their courage, humanity was still fighting a war against a galaxy of enemies. However, with each day that passed, the tide of the war slowly began to shift. The coalition of alien powers that had once seemed unstoppable was starting to fracture, facing unexpected setbacks from humanity's unexpected resilience. The Sirith, the Vaxilians, and the Himal, once sure of their victory, began to see that this was not going to be an easy conquest. The Vrakath's confidence wavered, their plans slipping through their fingers as the humans grew bolder. By the time Earth's forces staged their first major victory on the planet of Hethron, the galaxy knew that humanity was no longer the weak, naive species they had once been. It was becoming clear, humanity, though still struggling, was evolving rapidly. They were learning, adapting, and becoming something much more dangerous than their enemies had anticipated. The war was far from over, but the humans had made it clear they would not be crushed, and they would not be forgotten. Their fight was just beginning, and the galaxy would soon learn to fear the name Earth. By 2250, the war between Earth and the Galactic Coalition of the Vrakath, Cirith, Vaxilians, and Hamal raged on. The human race, though outgunned and outnumbered, began to discover a secret weapon that no one had expected: humanity's unmatched will to survive. Alien civilizations, while technologically advanced, often operated within rigid traditions or cultural codes that made them predictable and inflexible. They followed ancient rules of conduct and did not easily adjust to the chaos of war. Humans, on the other hand, were fast learners. They adapted to any situation, using their creativity and resourcefulness to exploit weaknesses where none seemed to exist. This ability to adapt quickly gave humanity a significant edge. As Earth's leaders began to form alliances with other oppressed species who had long been crushed under the heel of the Vrakath's empire, the balance of power started to shift. These newly formed alliances were not born of trust or mutual admiration, but out of shared desperation. The Vrakath had ruthlessly subjugated dozens of civilizations, and now these species found a common cause with Earth: liberation. The alliance was fragile at first, with many of these species unsure of humanity's true strength. But Earth's fighters proved their worth in the heat of battle, earning the respect of their allies. As the war continued, humans made tactical breakthroughs that would have seemed impossible a decade earlier. The Cirith, a race known for their psychic abilities and advanced intelligence, had long been a significant threat to humanity. Their psychic powers allowed them to anticipate movements, read minds, and predict strategies, making them formidable opponents in any battle. However, Earth's engineers and scientists had been quietly working on something that would change the course of the war: a weapon designed to disrupt psychic energy. They had developed an electromagnetic pulse, EMP device that, when activated, would scramble the psychic signals the Cirith relied on for their mental focus. The first time the weapon was used, the result was stunning. In the midst of a battle, near the planet Kradoth, an EMP blast sent the Cirith forces into chaos. Unable to coordinate, their once unbeatable advantage collapsed, and humanity seized the moment, delivering a decisive blow. But Earth's breakthroughs didn't stop there. The Vaxilians, a race known for their heavy, nearly indestructible warships, had long been considered the most fearsome adversaries. Their warships were built to withstand anything, and their technology was thought to be impenetrable. Yet, once again, humanity's ingenuity proved to be their salvation. Using their understanding of alien technology, often reverse-engineered from previous victories, Earth developed a new kind of weapon: a targeted energy pulse designed to strike directly at the power core of the Vaxilian ships, bypassed their thick armor and crippled their fleets. What had once been an unbeatable force was now vulnerable, and Earth's forces were quick to exploit the weakness, engaging the Vaxilians in battle with strategies they had never anticipated. As these victories piled up, Earth's military leaders began to see the bigger picture. They had long relied on brute force and guerrilla tactics, but now they understood that to truly secure their future in the galaxy, they needed to become shrewd diplomats as well as soldiers. The galaxy was not just a battlefield. It was a complex web of political alliances, rivalries, and power struggles. To survive and thrive, humanity had to navigate this web with precision and intelligence. Earth's military leaders, once hesitant and reactive, now became strategists, mastering the delicate art of diplomacy while continuing to enhance their military capabilities. They made offers of protection and trade to other civilizations, slowly drawing more species into their fold. Many of these species, having suffered under the Vrakath and their allies, were eager to join forces with Earth, recognizing the humans' ability to adapt and win. As the tide of the war turned, the galaxy began to take notice. What had once seemed like a hopeless rebellion was now transforming into a serious military and political power. Humanity was not just fighting for survival, they were becoming a force to be reckoned with. With every victory, Earth grew stronger, more united and more confident in its ability to shape its own future. And as they formed more alliances and made tactical breakthroughs, the galactic powers who had once underestimated humanity began to realize that Earth's true advantage was not just in its weapons or technology. It was in the heart and mind of its people who would stop at nothing to protect their home and their freedom. By 2255, humanity had come a long way from the desperate days of their first contact with the Vrakath. The war had ravaged Earth, but it had also sparked something far greater. A coalition of species, all united under the banner of the Earth Alliance. This alliance wasn't just formed of Earth's military forces, it included the liberated species that had once been oppressed by the Vrakath and their allies. Species that had long been crushed under the weight of galactic domination now stood alongside humanity, fighting for their freedom and their right to exist. It was a powerful sight, a motley crew of different races, each with their own history and strengths, but all sharing a common goal: to defeat the Vrakath. At the heart of the Earth Alliance's resurgence were some of the greatest minds and military tacticians humanity had ever known. They worked tirelessly in secret, combining Earth's relentless creativity with the alien technologies they had scavenged from their enemies. The results were nothing short of revolutionary. The human-engineered warships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They were fast, adaptable, and bristling with weaponry that had been crafted from both stolen Vrakath technology and humanity's own innovations. These ships were designed not just to survive, but to outmaneuver the powerful Vrakath fleets. The human-designed weaponry became their true game-changer. A new generation of energy weapons, targeting systems, and shields made Earth's forces far more formidable than anyone had expected. The first true test of the Earth Alliance came during the Battle of Glacion Prime, a critical moment that would forever change the war. The Vrakath had launched a massive offensive, planning to crush the growing Earth Alliance in one decisive blow. They gathered their might, ready to obliterate everything humanity had worked for. The Earth Alliance, however, was prepared. The battle unfolded over the icy moons of Glacion Prime, where the Alliance's newly designed warships engaged the Vrakath fleet in a brutal and high-stakes battle. The human forces, using their new weapons and tactics, attacked with precision and coordination. For the first time, the Vrakath found themselves on the defensive. The battle raged for hours, and the Alliance's forces, while outnumbered, used every advantage they could. Guerrilla tactics, the element of surprise, and the sheer creativity of human ingenuity. They struck at the heart of the Vrakath fleet, disabling their flagship and wiping out an entire battle group in a move that shocked the galaxy. The news of this unprecedented victory spread like wildfire across the galaxy. For the first time, the Vrakath, who had once seemed unstoppable, were shown to be vulnerable. The shock waves from Glacion Prime reached the farthest corners of the galaxy, and the once unshakable Vrakath began to falter. Their empire, built on fear and oppression, now had a true challenger. However, instead of retreating or negotiating, the Vrakath made a fatal mistake. They chose to escalate the war, launching a full-scale invasion with the goal of crushing the Earth Alliance, once and for all. They underestimated the human spirit, believing that the victory at Glacion Prime had been a fluke. What they failed to realize was that humanity had already transformed. The humans were no longer the frightened, desperate species they had once been. They were warriors, leaders, and innovators, united in their cause and driven by the fierce desire to protect their home and their newfound allies. The invasion that followed was brutal, but it did not break the Earth Alliance. The Vrakath may have had the numbers, but they lacked the resilience and adaptability of humanity. Earth's soldiers, alongside their alien allies, fought with a ferocity that became legendary. Every battle they fought, no matter how small, was a testament to their unyielding determination. The Earth Alliance's forces became a symbol of defiance, known throughout the galaxy not just for their strength, but for their ability to overcome impossible odds. The Vrakath's once mighty forces began to lose ground. The humans, it seemed, could never be crushed, not in spirit, not in battle, and certainly not in the face of their determination. Word of the Earth Alliance's victories spread, and whispers of their unstoppable resolve reached even the most distant corners of the galaxy. The name Earth became synonymous with resistance, with strength, and with the unbreakable will to survive. The Vrakath, once so certain of their victory, now found themselves battling not just a military force, but an idea that would inspire countless species to rise up against oppression. The war was far from over, but humanity had taken its first true step into the stars, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Earth Alliance had become a power to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never forget the human spirit that had helped bring it to life. By 2260, humanity had achieved what many in the galaxy once thought impossible. The war with the Vrakath, a conflict that had nearly shattered Earth and its allies, was now reaching its final stages. The Earth Alliance, once a ragtag collection of desperate species, was now a well-oiled war machine, stronger and more unified than ever before. What had begun as a desperate fight for survival had transformed into a full-scale offensive. The human military, having perfected the art of surprise and adaptability, was now preparing to strike at the very heart of the Vrakath Empire, their homeworld, Zarak. Armed with cutting-edge technology, stolen alien tech, and the knowledge gained from years of battle, Earth's forces were poised for an all-out assault. The Vrakath, once thought invincible with their advanced technology and massive fleets, were now facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. Earth's forces, emboldened by their previous victories, had become masters of warfare. They knew how to exploit weaknesses, how to anticipate movements, and how to strike swiftly and decisively. The attack on Zarak was relentless. Human fleets, along with their alien allies, descended upon the Vrakath homeworld with an unstoppable fury. The Vrakath, already weakened by years of war, could not withstand the ferocity of Earth's assault. Their once mighty defense systems crumbled under the weight of the combined forces of the Earth Alliance. The battle for Zarak was fierce, but it was also quick. Within days, the Vrakath capital fell, and the once dominant empire was shattered. The Vrakath, now on the brink of total defeat, had no choice but to surrender. However, their surrender came with a chilling message. The galaxy will not forget humanity's defiance. There will be a reckoning, and it will come. It was a warning that echoed across the stars, a reminder that even in defeat, the Vrakath were not willing to let humanity's rise go unchallenged. But their warning fell on deaf ears. The human spirit was unshakable, and Earth's newfound dominance in the galaxy was undeniable. The victory on Zarak marked a turning point not just in the war, but in the history of the galaxy. For the first time, humanity stood as the dominant power in the known universe. The political landscape of the galaxy was shifting. Earth's influence grew exponentially, as species who had once seen them as a fledgling power now looked to them for guidance, protection, and alliance. No longer fractured by petty differences, Earth's once divided governments now united under the banner of the Earth Federation. This new political entity was a force unlike any other, with a single, unified leadership that directed Earth's military and diplomatic efforts. The Federation was not just a military power, it became a political giant, influencing galactic decisions, forging alliances, and shaping the future of interstellar relations. The human military, known for their shock tactics, ingenuity, and unpredictability, became the stuff of legend. Their ability to turn the tide of battle with a single, unexpected move struck fear into anyone who dared to oppose them. The Vrakath had learned this lesson the hard way, and now, every other faction in the galaxy would be forced to do the same. The Earth Federation's rise was swift and unstoppable. Allies flocked to Earth's side, eager for the protection and power that came with being aligned with the once feared conqueror. The Vrakath, though defeated, had unwittingly laid the groundwork for the Earth Federation to become the greatest military and political power in the galaxy. The new alliance that Earth had formed was a powerful one. Species that had once been enemies now stood side by side, united under a common cause. Many, having experienced the brutal might of the Vrakath, looked to Earth not only for leadership but for protection. And Earth, with its newly forged strength, provided both. The Federation became the cornerstone of galactic order, an unmovable force that ensured peace and stability, at least for those who fell in line. But as Earth rose to power, the galaxy remained a volatile place. The warning from the Vrakath loomed large in the minds of many, and while Earth had emerged victorious, the question remained: would the galaxy accept humanity's new role as the dominant force, or would they rise against the humans who had dared to defy the ancient order? Regardless, Earth's place at the top was secure, and nothing could undo the fact that humanity, once a mere newcomer in the stars, had ascended to a position of untold power, leaving an indelible mark on the galaxy's history. The age of Earth had begun, and the universe would never be the same. By 2270, the Earth Federation had solidified its dominance over the galaxy, but the price of power was starting to show. What had once been a beacon of hope for the oppressed was now becoming something far darker. The very ruthlessness that had fueled humanity's rise to the top, its ingenuity, its will to survive, its drive to conquer, had also sowed seeds of distrust and resentment among its allies. The galaxy, once united in the fight against the Vrakath, now found itself divided once again. Only this time, the fracture lines ran deep within the Federation itself. Former allies began to question whether the Earth they had fought for was still the same Earth they had once admired. They began to whisper that humanity's hunger for power was becoming unchecked, its once strong ideals of freedom and justice giving way to authoritarianism. The cracks in the Federation's foundation grew wider as Earth's government took more drastic measures to maintain control. What had started as a unified alliance of species, each contributing to the cause of peace and security, was slowly turning into an empire, a powerful, sprawling force determined to impose its will on the galaxy. Those who had once fought alongside humanity now found themselves at odds with the Federation's leadership, which had become increasingly ruthless in its dealings with both allies and enemies. Trade agreements were imposed with harsh conditions. Diplomacy was replaced by intimidation, and the Federation's military, once seen as the protectors of peace, became the enforcers of a growing empire. Alien species that had long admired humanity's strength now found themselves questioning the cost of that strength. Had the Federation become what they had once fought against, the very tyranny they had rebelled against? Amidst the growing internal tension, a human admiral, once a hero of the war, found himself disillusioned by the Federation's authoritarian shift. He had been a symbol of the human spirit, leading the charge against the Vrakath, but now he saw the Federation for what it had become: a political machine, obsessed with control, willing to sacrifice its principles for power. Unable to stand by any longer, the Admiral gathered a group of like-minded officers and led a rebellion against the Federation government. Their goal was simple: to restore the Federation's original ideals and return to a more peaceful, diplomatic approach to interstellar relations. They sought to curb the Federation's growing authoritarianism, advocating for a return to the values that had made humanity's rise possible in the first place. The Admiral's rebellion gained support among some factions within the Federation, but it was also met with harsh opposition from those who believed that the Federation's dominance was essential for maintaining peace in the galaxy. However, the Admiral's rebellion was not the only threat the Federation faced. Among the alien species who had once joined Earth in their fight against the Vrakath, a growing faction of rebels began to emerge. These former allies, who had shared in the glory of humanity's victories, now turned their anger toward Earth. They accused the Federation of becoming the very thing they had once fought to destroy: an oppressive, power-hungry regime. These alien rebels, many of whom had once believed in Earth's ideals of freedom and justice, now found themselves at odds with their former human allies. They saw the Federation's increasing authoritarianism as a betrayal, a fall from grace, that they could no longer ignore. Their numbers grew, and they began to launch strikes against Federation installations, hoping to inspire a wider rebellion against Earth's rule. The Earth Federation stood at a crossroads. Would humanity continue to dominate the galaxy, maintaining its grip on power and imposing its will across the stars? Or would the very soul of humanity be lost in the pursuit of that power, torn apart by internal strife and the weight of its own ambitions? The Federation's future now hung in the balance, with factions on all sides pushing for different visions of what humanity's role in the galaxy should be. The rebellion led by the Admiral was only the beginning. The galaxy was no longer united under a single banner. It was fractured, with old alliances crumbling and new enemies emerging from within. The question remained: could humanity find a way to stay true to its ideals, or had the hunger for power already taken too much from them? The Earth Federation had achieved victory, but the true test had just begun. Would humanity's rise to power lead to a golden age of peace, or would it become a cautionary tale of the cost of unchecked ambition? By 2280, humanity had reached a moment of profound transformation. The rebellion that had once threatened to fracture the Earth Federation had been quelled, but the scars it left were undeniable. The Federation's leadership, once arrogant in its unyielding power, now found itself at a crossroads. The harsh tactics and authoritarian measures that had brought humanity to the height of galactic dominance could no longer be ignored or justified. The very same people who had fought for freedom and against oppression were now questioning whether they had become the very thing they once despised. The old ideals, the ones that had sparked humanity's rise, seemed lost beneath the weight of conquest and control. Yet, within this struggle lay an opportunity for redemption, a chance for the Earth Federation to change, to reflect on its mistakes, and evolve into something better. The Federation's leadership, recognizing the disillusionment growing within its ranks and among its allies, initiated sweeping reforms. The old, rigid power structures that had governed the Federation began to crumble. In their place, a new vision emerged, one focused not on domination, but on cooperation and mutual respect among the galaxy's diverse races. Earth's government, once a symbol of military might and unchecked authority, became a model for a more balanced and just order. The military was restructured, with a renewed focus on peacekeeping and diplomacy rather than conquest. The Federation's leaders sought to build a new alliance that wasn't driven by fear, but by shared goals, respect for autonomy, and a commitment to peace. Though the road to change was neither easy nor without resistance, the Federation's willingness to confront its past and reshape its future marked the beginning of a new era. As humanity adapted to this new role in the galaxy, they sought to repair relationships with those they had once alienated. Former allies, who had once fought alongside Earth and now feared its growing power, were invited to be a part of the Federation's transformation. a renewed spirit of collaboration spread across the stars as humanity began to work hand in hand with alien races. Not as conquerors, but as partners. Earth became a symbol of resilience, not just because of its military victories, but because it had shown the strength to change, to learn from its mistakes, and to seek a better future for all sentient beings. The new Earth Federation wasn't just a superpower. It was a beacon of hope for those who believed that unity and cooperation could replace conflict and division. The scars of the past, though still visible, became a reminder of the journey humanity had taken. From a struggling species fighting to survive in the vastness of space, Earth had grown into a galactic power that had learned to temper its strength with wisdom. The Federation's military might, once feared across the galaxy, became a symbol of protection rather than oppression. Earth's transformation into a force of peace did not erase its past, but it gave the galaxy a new narrative, a story of redemption, unity, and growth. Humanity's legacy, once defined solely by its conquest, was now one of hope and cooperation. The lessons learned from their rise to power, the rebellion that shook their foundations, and the subsequent reforms had given birth to a new order, a more just, more inclusive federation. Earth's influence had spread far and wide, but now, it was not the power of military force that commanded respect. It was humanity's ability to adapt, to evolve, and to build bridges between races that once saw each other as enemies. The Earth Federation became a symbol of what could be achieved when power was used for the greater good, when strength was paired with compassion. The galaxy, once fractured and divided, now looked to Earth not as a conqueror, but as a leader that had earned its place not through military dominance, but through resilience and the unwavering belief in the possibility of a better future. Humanity's story was no longer just one of war and conquest, but of a species that had learned to rise above its flaws and build a new legacy. The Earth Federation, once feared as the most powerful military force in the galaxy, had become a shining example of peaceful coexistence, a model for the stars, showing that no matter how dark the past may be, the future is always open to redemption and growth. And so, humanity entered this new era not as rulers, but as stewards of a shared future, forever changed, forever reborn.